Hey guys, we are live. Welcome back to the show. Rafik says, when is this webinar starting? It's starting now. It's not strictly speaking a webinar, it's a live stream, but it is starting now. So thank you for tuning in. Apologize for the fact that I'm slightly late. I tell you what, it's been a crazy day today. If you're not aware, and you should be aware because I've been banging on about it for ages now, but Charisma and Dating Academy is live at the moment. It's the doors are open, new students are rolling in, and because you're in this stream, you will get a 25% discount off the price of the course. So I'll grab the link and I'll stick it in the chat in a minute. But if you go to the description for this stream, you will see the link there for Charisma and Dating Academy. You can join and you get 25% off because you're on this stream today, because that's what an awesome guy I am. But anyway, that aside, yeah, it's been a tiring day because, I mean, God, I've just been doing this promotion stuff for the course. Earlier on, I was on with John, Modern Life Dating. I was on his show at lunchtime, which was cool, but we were on for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, I think. And then I had a bit of a break, and then I was on with Myron Gaines, and again, I was on for about an hour and a half. And then I had to go into a private Zoom call with some guys that I'm working with, and that went on for like an hour and 45, I think. So I've just been like staring at this screen all day, talking at it like a crazy mofo in my apartment. And I tell you what, guys, as well, it is hot AF in London today. It really, really is very hot. It's like 30 degrees, I think it was earlier, which is for us is pretty damn hot. I mean, it may have got higher last week, but it's pretty damn hot. And I also went for a run earlier as well, which was quite nice. But boy, when I left the apartment and started going down the road, I was like, wow, this is damn hot. And then it sort of cooled off a little bit. And it's okay now, but I've got the fan going. I've got the ice mineral water. And yeah, we're ready to go. And so somebody says here, Rafik says, do you live in London? I do. Well, I'm based in London, yes, at the present moment, without wanting to be evasive. But yes, I am here at the moment in the big smoke. So listen, what I wanted to kick off today to talk about was introversion, shy guys, dating, game, all of that stuff. But as always, please put your questions in the chat and I will get to them as we go on, because I want this to be interactive. I want you to put questions, comments, as long as they're not too rude, topics that you want covered, and we'll get to them as we go through the stream. But in order to kick things off, I thought I would talk about shy guys and introversion and stuff, because why was I thinking about this, really? Well, I've been thinking for a while about who I am aiming this wonderful content at. And of course, in one sense, it's aimed at anybody. It's aimed at guys primarily. I mean, if there are any ladies watching, then welcome. Put some nudes in the chat. No, I'm joking. But, you know, I mean, primarily, obviously, this stuff is aimed at guys because I am a guy and that is my experience. And I'm sharing my experience and maybe somebody can benefit from it. But then what kind of guys is it aimed at? And of course, really, it's kind of aimed at anybody. It's aimed at anybody who feels any sort of affinity with me or my story or what I have to say or whatever. So in that sense, it's pretty broad. But I suppose if I had to narrow it down and say, is there one sort of person that I am talking to maybe on a deeper level, or maybe that this will have more resonance for, then it probably is the guy who is a bit shy. It's probably the guy who is introverted. It's the guy who is, finds it difficult socially to get on with other people, finds it difficult to make his mark in a crowd, not just with women, but with girls. Sorry, not just with girls. See, I told you I'm tired. Not just with women, but just generally with guys in groups, whatever it is. And I think that really my message is particularly appropriate to those people, just because that was the background that I came from myself. And I've just had a message here from, is that Lan, right? Says, what's up, Troy? Recently discovered your channel. Really enjoying your content. Thank you very much. That is fantastic. And I'm just seeing an alert here saying that they load more places on. Sorry, thank you very much for that comment. That's really nice. I'm glad that you appreciate it. Right, 500,000 Brits face a scramble home because France, Holland, Switzerland, Poland, and Malta get added to the UK's quarantine list. It's COVID. It's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? It's just one damn thing after another. You know, like before we could fly to a lot of different places. Now they're making people quarantine when they come back from certain places, and Poland and Malta could be on the list. So bad times, really. But anyway, that's not what this is about. So let's get back to Shy Guys and Introversion. So, yeah, I mean, when you are creating content in this space, then you tend to get, well, in my experience, I've had people who like my stuff and they've enjoyed it and they feel they've got something from it. I've had a lot of people like that. But you also get people who are critics, you know, like they're trolls, they are, you know, they're haters or whatever. And I get my share of those. And I think that sorry, this is lagging a little bit. I hope this will start to improve as we go through. But yeah, I get my share of haters. I get my share of people who are slagging me off. A lot of the time it's sort of covertly, like they don't necessarily name you, but it's pretty obvious who they're talking about. It's kind of obvious they're talking about you. And, you know, it's in this particular space, specifically, it's difficult because, you know, what are you doing when you are a content creator talking about getting good at dating? You know, like there's an impression that you're sitting here saying, yeah, I'm amazing. I'm the greatest pimp in the universe. You know, women can't resist me. You know, and so that's very easy for guys to take pot shots at because guys will say, well, no, and they'll pick holes in it. They'll say, well, surely that guy can't be that great. I mean, look at him, look at his hair, look at his face, look at his physique, look at his, you know, he's not that rich. He hasn't got a big car. How tall is he? You know, has he ever filmed himself talking to girls? If he has, it was probably faked. If he hasn't, that's because he's no good because he doesn't do it. You know, like whatever you do, they're going to find a way to criticize you. You post photographs, they'll say, oh, they're fake, or the girls weren't that attractive anyway, or, you know, whatever. It's all smoke and mirrors. If you don't post them, they'll say, what's he got to hide? Why isn't he? Obviously, he's not walking the walk. Or, you know, he's talking the talk, he's not walking the walk. So, you know, you will get slated and criticized regardless. But that then led me to thinking, okay, so, you know, what am I really saying to you guys? And actually, what I'm not saying is I am the world's greatest person, the world's greatest alpha chat. I mean, I'm certainly not saying that. I mean, that would be ridiculous, right? You know, I'm not saying I'm the world's greatest pickup guy or anything like that. What I think I am saying, though, is that I am somebody who came from a background of extreme introversion and extreme shyness and actually extreme self-esteem, low self-esteem as well, and managed by hook or by crook to and that's sort of it really. And you know, I was thinking, well, sometimes you get guys that doesn't really matter because I am not, you know, it doesn't matter whether you put me up against Alpha Chad and which of the two of us could get the best traction, you know, with the women in that particular social experiment. That's sort of irrelevant because that's not really what I'm teaching. You know, like if I walked into the bar or the club with some guy who is incredibly good looking, incredibly jacked, very rich, you know, all of these different things, would he get more traction than me? Yeah, probably. But that's not really the point because I wouldn't put myself into that competitive space. You know, the point about this and what I teach is simply that, if you're an ordinary guy, particularly for a guy that comes from a background of being quite self-effacing, quite shy, quite self-deprecating, etc., can you get better results than you would otherwise have got? And the answer to that is absolutely 100% yes. Okay, and that's what I've experienced myself in my own life. And so I thought it might be useful just to talk a little bit about, the background that I had, if you like, because Mark's saying the audio is clearer. I'm having some problems with the bloody internet. It's just such a pain. It really, really is. But don't worry, because we are soon upgrading everything. So service is going to improve massively. So thank you guys for sticking with me during this difficult period of crap technology. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's like I was somebody really, how they have those, the guy least likely to in the class, the kid least likely to get a girlfriend or whatever. You get this kind of in American, like high school type dramas and things. I would have been the guy least likely to get a girlfriend, right? I would have been the guy least likely to get any kind of traction with the opposite sex, to be popular socially, to, any of these things. I would have been the least likely dude out there to be doing what I'm doing now, to be creating videos on the internet, to be talking live to a bunch of people, to be manfully struggling when the internet is clearly lagging and I'm looking like an idiot and just clearly struggling through. I would be the person least likely to be able to do this because, as I say, I was very low self-esteem. I was very self-deprecating. I was very afraid of social contact. I mean, why was that the case? Hard to say. There were some family troubles. My family background, without going into too many details, wasn't incredibly harmonious when I was a kid. My parents divorced when I was very young. There was, I believe, a lot of friction in that marriage from probably when I was, I don't know, 4, 5. They divorced when I was 7, which is still very young. It's still at the point when the child is forming, mentally forming. So it's not so young that you have no idea of what's going on, but it's not old enough to be really prepared to mentally deal with that situation. So that was tough. Then my father got custody of myself and my sister, and then he married again. And my stepmother, the woman that he married, was a difficult woman, and I had a difficult relationship with her. She was sometimes loving and kind. Other times she would fly into rages and she would be very demonic and it was a very, very traumatic experience. So, I had the two things. I had not only the failure of my father's first marriage, but then I had the difficulty of living in that new home on top of that. So, and probably even without any of those things happening, I was probably somebody who was quite I probably would have been quite shy anyway. I was quite a bookish kid. I was quite introverted. Now, listen, before somebody gets in the chat and starts saying, "Oh, that's not the proper definition of introvert," like we're not getting into a big clinical discussion here. I mean, yes, I know that there are more deep dive definitions of introversion, but I mean, I think if we just take it from the very basic standpoint of, are you somebody who prefers their own company or not? I think fundamentally, a lot of the time, I'm just somebody who prefers my own company. I quite like being alone. It's not so I like the lockdowns. I wouldn't go to that extreme, but I like the option, right? I'm quite happy to be on my own all day, doing work, doing writing, whatever. I quite like to go out to the cafe later, just sort of bar, just see some people around. Don't have to interact much, you know what I mean? Like, what I'm not is the life and soul of the party, in the sense that, I'm like, oh, right, everyone come back to my place. That's all, this is crazy. Like, I want people around me the whole time. I'm just not, right? I'm just not that dude. That's not to say that I can't perform well in social changes. That's not to say that I can't come across and be very sort of flamboyant in a nightclub situation or a bar or a party or whatever. But I've taught myself to do that. It's not like what I naturally want. Like, naturally, a lot of the time, I'm just like, oh, God, I just want to get away from these people and just go home. Plus I was shy, plus I was not particularly self-confident. There was just a load of stuff. And I think with the family problems on top, that just gets exacerbated and you just become, and then, you know, you go to school, you start interacting with other kids, you become an easy target to get picked on, and then it becomes this like, you know, negative cycle whereby, you know, your lack of confidence allows the other kids to, you know, you become vulnerable, and then that makes you even more, you know, afraid or like, you know, socially awkward, and then that triggers them even more, and it's just this negative cycle that goes round and round and round. So, you know, for me, it was always very difficult, right? And I, you know, I wasn't confident at all. I wasn't confident even with the other dudes who I was at school with. I certainly wasn't confident with the girls. Now, as it happens, there were girls actually when I was at school who were interested in me. You know, I sometimes like to tell it as if I was kind of like an inside character. And in some ways, I sort of was. But at the same time, there were there were girls of my age in the school who were interested in me. But I tended to fall into the somewhat blue pill, one-itis kind of thing. So I would always fall for like one special girl in the class who I really, really liked. And I would just, you know, just crave to be with her, and I would shut everybody else out. And so, and this is one of the big mistakes that I made as a kid. I didn't probably get the experience that I could have done at a younger age because I was effectively shutting out options of girls that were actually interested in me and were attractive, for girls who were never going to be interested in me. And of course, you know, when in game, we know that that's a no-no, because there's no point in putting loads of energy on somebody who's just it's just a waste of time. But I didn't know that at the time. So anyway, then, you know, you come out of school, you go to university, and yeah, I found it very difficult to be social with people, to the point that, and I've told this story before, but I once went to Oxford University to spend a a weekend there, because I was thought likely to be a potential Oxbridge candidate, and so I went there for a week and for a weekend. And Emily says, "Is this live?" Yes, it is. So, you know, I went there to see what it was like, to see some example lectures and what life at Oxford University would be like. Now, we came down maybe the Friday, went to a couple of lectures, had an evening meal in the big banqueting halls. It was quite cool, actually. And then in the evening, because I was so socially inept, probably the other people like met up and, you know, kind of like, I don't know, whatever, like went out together or maybe had a drink together or whatever. I just went out on my own because I'm an introvert and because I was very shy, and couldn't really properly communicate with the other people there. So I went out on my own. I had a look around Oxford and, you know, whatever, went back to bed, went back to wherever I was staying for bed. Next morning, I wake up and there's a breakfast. I was probably about 16, 17 at this time, okay? Next morning, there's a breakfast. So we all go to the cafeteria. There's a breakfast. Everyone's just sitting on like shared tables. I sit down and a couple of girls come and sit on the same table as me. And the girls, I think they were quite attractive from what I can remember. I can't remember exactly what they looked like, but it was quite a long time ago now. But the girls sit down at the same table as me. And then one of the girls, just being polite, just being nice, looks at me and she's like, "Oh, how are you? Did you have a good night last night?" And I obviously heard her, and I sort of looked in her direction, but I was so nervous that I couldn't even answer her. I certainly couldn't look her in the eye, and I couldn't even answer her. I couldn't bring myself to speak, even to say, "Yeah, I had a good night, yeah." I couldn't even say that. I was literally tongue-tied, and this was the age 16, 17, in front of a girl, you know, of the same age. I mean, you know, like you couldn't get. I know that you get a lot of people in this space who are like, "Oh yeah, you know, you should see me then and look at me now," kind of thing. But you couldn't have got a dude who was more shy in that situation than I was. I mean, I was just completely. I mean, I wasn't just socially inept. I was completely socially incapable. Okay, so that's sort of like the baseline that I came from, and then, you know, I went throughout the rest of my sixth form years, which are the 16 to 18, when you do what we call A levels in the United Kingdom, which is what you do before you go to a university. I started to really go off the rails, I think, for the first time. I started to, whereas before I'd been a very good student, I'd worked hard, I'd done all my homework, all that kind of stuff. I started to lose interest. I started to rebel a bit. I was a bit like, well, sod all of this. I'm not interested anymore. And I kind of messed it up. I kind of messed up my A levels. I didn't get the grades that I was expected to get. I wasn't then able to get into Oxford because I didn't have the grades that would have got me in. And so, you know, that sort of, I suppose, I mean, at the time I thought, I don't care, because I don't care about, you know, I don't care about academia anymore or any of that stuff. But perhaps that just compounded my sense of failure, my sense of worthlessness. And then I ended up going to a university in the north of England, in Manchester. And I was, you know, I was still that same person. I moved to the north of England. I moved to Manchester, but I was still carrying with me this kid that I couldn't look people in the eye. I couldn't have a proper conversation with people. And I went into what they call the halls of residence. I'm not sure what they call it in the United States, but, you know, basically like is it a frat house? You know, like a house where all these guys were living, student accommodation. I go into the student accommodation, and I remember for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I basically just locked myself in my room. You know, there were probably let's say there were 8 other guys in this house, and we were all living together. And I just basically locked myself in my room, and then I would go up to the kitchen where nobody else was in there and make something to eat, and come back down to the room, or take the food back down to the room and just lock myself in, and just, you know, literally hardly spoke to anybody for the first few weeks. And then, you know, I started to speak a little bit, but I just keep myself to myself. I mean, I was, you know, just very, very socially inept. And that went on really for quite some time, into my early 20s. And so the fact that, you know, you fast forward many years, and obviously these days I'm doing this, and you know, I'm doing all the other things that I do on the internet and stuff. But of course, in between, I've done all of this game stuff. I've done all of these approaches. I've been to all of these clubs. I've done it's almost like, well, is this even the same person? You know, like, how do you go from being that shy, introverted guy who just can't hack it at all socially, to being somebody who, I mean, years later, then I was at a wedding with my sisters, because I've got a few sisters. Well, I've got 3 sisters, right? And I was at this wedding with my sisters, and, you know, like weddings, it's a weird family event. There's groups of people. It's like, we don't really know half of these people. It's kind of weird. And I was going around starting conversations with people, and my sisters were looking at me like, going, how the hell have you got the confidence to do that? And they weren't able to do that, even though in the past they'd probably been perhaps more confident than me. Now, I'm not saying that to try and big myself up, you know, like, right, I'm more confident than my sisters, you know, like, I don't mean that, but it's just like, there came a point when I had trained myself to be even more confident than some of the people who were around me. And, like, you know, friends of mine would always say, you know, you are so good at opening. Like, I remember a good friend of mine, really good looking guy, we're in Ibiza in the nightclub. I'm going around opening all these, you know, groups of girls, or sets as they used to call them. And my friend is like, you know, you are so confident at this. Like, how do you do that? How do you just go around and do that stuff? And I'm like, well, you know, like, but I trained myself to do it. And this is the point, you see. And this is what I think I can teach guys. I'm not teaching you to be Dan Bilzerian. I'm not teaching you to be, you know, the guy with the Lambo. I'm not teaching you to be, you know, everybody starts from their own baseline, okay? And, you know, if you put me in a room, who's going to get better results? Well, clearly, you know, it's going to be Dan Bilzerian. It's going to be the blue check guy, right? I mean, like, so I'm not making outsized claims for this, but what I think I can say very confidently is that I can help you to lift yourself if you are somebody who suffers from social anxiety, if you're somebody who suffers from low self-esteem. I can pull you up, because I did the same thing myself, and I've changed massively throughout my life to become the person that I eventually became, you know. And you can too, you know, it is possible. And this is why, you know, like on the Rule Zero program at the weekend, we were talking about so-called incels and kind of black pill guys and everything. And the reason that I give those guys short shrift online is because really I was one of those guys. You know, I was one of those guys who was black pill, who was an incel, who was like, oh God, no one's ever going to love me. You know, I was one of those dudes. And I changed things for myself. And I'm not saying it's as easy. I know it's difficult, guys. I'm not saying, oh, just pull yourself together and go and approach 10 girls and it'll be great. You know, I know it's hard, but it is doable. That's the point. And because I've been there, I think that that's something kind of unique that I bring to the party here, because I mean, you know, like I see gay and PUA type people and they say, oh yeah, you know, I was so hopeless when I was younger. And then you listen to their backstory and you think, well, actually, you sound pretty confident. You sound like you kind of had it all right. I mean, I was like genuinely like on the floor for a long time when I was a kid. And I've sort of told the story about how things changed. Honestly, they kind of changed because I ended up doing a load of drinking drugs in Manchester nightclubs, and I sort of, my personality kind of changed as a result of that. And I don't recommend that, but the point is that people think they have a personality and that you're stuck. That's just the sort of person you are. You know, I'm a quiet person. I'm a shy person. I'm an introverted person. I'm a, you know, academic person. I'm this sort of person, and I have to stay within that lane. And that really isn't the case, you know, because in my experience, you have different strands of things within you. You know, I have the bookish, quiet, introverted side to me for sure. I also have the crazy, spontaneous, adventurous side to me. I also have the flirtatious, you know, kind of cocky jerk side to me. You know, I've also then got the, you know, the loving family member side to me, or the faithful friend. I've got all of these different sides to me, and you have too. We all have. So, you know, you don't ever think that you are just stuck in one paradigm, because you're really not. You can pull yourself out of it. And I am living proof of it, although people may, you know, want to take issue with my story and everything like that. But, you know, I'm just telling it like it is. And yeah, I mean, you know, I'm just a massively different person. And the good thing that I can do is I can break it down and I can explain how that happened for me. Okay. And if you're somebody who is like that as well, then I can help you with that, because, as I say, I've experienced it myself, and you can't really, it's harder for the Chad guy. You know, I mean, there are some dating coaches on the internet and they're just basically Chads. You know, they're basically like, yeah, I'm good looking, I'm ripped. I was popular with the girls from the age of 12, and I am, you know, here I am, bro, just lift, bro, and it's all going to be great. And look, I mean, you know, some of those guys are great. I'm friends with some of those guys. No disparagement at all. But I think what I bring to the party is that, you know, I came from a very different starting point, and not everyone can say that. Do you know what I mean? So that's my USP, if you like. I'm sort of selling my USP here for you guys a little bit. Okay, so I'll start going through some comments now. So Stealth says, Stealth797, incel Blackpool dudes are so insufferable. They're so militantly against the one thing, PUA, that could pull them out of their own personal hell. It's very frustrating to watch. Yeah, I mean, it is really. I mean, like, I just think that they enjoy wallowing in it. You know, I think they enjoy wallowing in their own misery, and I think there's a bit of a circle jerk between them while they all wallow in this sort of misery, because it kind of makes you feel special, doesn't it? Kind of, if you could say to yourself and to your cohort of buddies on the internet and to the world, if you're making videos and things, you know, I am special and different because I was born like this. I was born with a curse on my back, and you know, and oh woe is me, look at this cross that I have to bear. That sounds very negative and depressing, but in another sort of a way, it's actually kind of, you can take a perverse pleasure in that kind of thinking. Ask me how I know, because I was exactly like that myself when I was 17 or 18. Now, as I said, it's not easy. I'm not saying you just, oh, come on, guys, snap out of it. Just lift and go and hit on some chicks and it'll be great. It's not easy to shift your mindset. But the point that I'm making is that it is possible. You know, it is possible to get different results from what you're getting now. It comes from mindset. That's the first pillar. After that, there's some technical stuff you can learn. But it is doable, you know, so you don't need to be on these forums. You don't need to be doing 8-hour live streams talking about, you know, PA how terrible they are. It's not necessary. And the other thing as well is to say, I don't think, like, why spend so much time putting out content that is effectively a negative? You're basically saying, don't do that because it's rubbish. It's like, well, okay, if you think self-development's rubbish, if you think that studying seduction is rubbish, then just don't do it. You know, you don't need to, like, you know, my channel, my content is about, well, why don't you try this? Have you tried that? This worked for me. Here's something you can do. Have you thought about this? You know, that's always what I'm trying to share. Whereas those dudes are just saying, oh, don't do that because it's rubbish. Well, it's like, well, okay, so, but where does that leave you? So what do you do? You know, apart from pay working ladies in order to satiate themselves. Justin says naturals can't articulate what needs to be learned in game. That is true for the most part. I mean, I think some can, but for the most part they can't, and they're probably not that interested in doing it. And again, you know, like another thing as well is that people will often criticize me because they're like, oh, you know, but what experiences, like, has he really got experience? Like, is he, you know, like, is he telling the truth? Is it like, you know, and all this kind of stuff? Even though I've put out video recordings and I've written like probably written more words about this stuff than almost anybody else in this space. And I've written about failures, I've written about my successes, I've written about girlfriends, dating, friends with benefits, all these different things have happened to me. And, you know, like, it's almost impossible to fake that over a sustained period of time. Everything I've shared has been just like honestly how it's been. But, you know, but the other thing to say is that I've not just written about myself. I'm not sitting here going, yeah, I'm just a complete natural kind of alpha dude and just follow me. Because that would also observing other guys who are that kind of guy and then trying to break down what they do. Those guys' content, they're not interested in successful. This is what we do to, you know, this is what we can do to emulate him, if you like. So Rory day game in Manchester, to be honest, but it is a cool place. I did a lot of nighttime stuff there because the club scene was, as Mr. Mark Zollo would say from Naughty Nomad, the crack was amazing. It was off the hook. The crack was incredible. So the crack was amazing, and yeah, I had a very good time there. But I think the day game, I would imagine the day game would be good as well. It's 500,000 people. That's a reasonable size to do day game. And then C. Joel says, what would you say to someone who identifying either introvert or extrovert? There are times in which I'm extremely extroverted in larger group settings. Well, yes, I mean, I am too. And so I don't think that the categories are entirely robust. I think the categories break down. I think about it in terms of what my base default is. And I think my base default is I quite like being on my own. You know, like I really like one-on-ones with people. You know, like I like to sit down with a girl or with, you know, a friend and we sit down and we have a talk, and we have coffee or whatever, bite to eat or whatever we're going to do, and I like that. Bigger groups, I find it a bit tiring, and I think that's it really, because they talk about where you draw your energy from, and and then I have to go and decompress. If I go to like a big event, like say it's like a party or something like that, I can do it, but then I want to get away and just get back to my hotel room, and I'm just like, now I can relax, and being on my own, and even just being with one person. Like, we've all been through lockdown, and maybe you've been, locked down with people and stuff. And for me, that was difficult. I mean, it was, it wasn't bad by any means. There were some good parts of it for sure, but it's also difficult to be locked down with people for a period of time when you are somebody like me, their own space. I'm just seeing more coronavirus news here actually, about the Greek islands. Are they shutting their bars down or something? Oh, God. Okay. Right. Coronavirus crackdown on Mykonos, Santorini, Corfu, Rhodes and Crete. Greece closes bars from midnight to 7 a.m. and demands Swedish, Spanish and Dutch travellers arrive with proof of a negative test. I mean, it's just one damn thing after another, isn't it, with this wonderful virus at the moment. So Mykonos, I was looking at quite closely. I wasn't necessarily planning to go there, but I was vaguely thinking about it because Mykonos is not a place I've been to, but I've been hearing a lot about it this year as a big party island. It looks beautiful. They've got these like lovely beach bars and clubs, and the crack's amazing. And I was vaguely looking at it, but now, according to that headline, because I know from people's Instagram stories that the clubs have been open there, and it's been sort of like the vibes look quite good. Now they're saying they're shutting them at night. I mean, it's just, it's. Oh God, it's just bad times. It's really, really bad times. It's disappointing, really. So what else are we looking at? Okay, so how do you get so good at game? Is all I have to do approach a lot and analyze those interactions? Is that all? Well, in a nutshell, yes. I mean, like, I became adept at it because, and listen, again, for any world-class PUAs who are watching this, I'm not claiming to be the best in the world. I'm not claiming that my method is better than yours or anything like that. All I'm saying is I'm somebody who has consistently punched above their weight in the dating market and has had perhaps more than their share of experiences, let's say. More than you would have thought a dude like I would have had when I was a kid, when I was that 17-year-old who couldn't look the girls in the eye, couldn't even speak to the girls at that table at Oxford. So with that being said, I think the reason that I became proficient at it was, yes, by doing a lot of approaches and things. But I mean, fundamentally, where does that come from? Well, it came from the fact that I was incredibly testosterone driven as a younger man. I mean, probably I'm less so now, a little bit less so, but as a younger guy, I was just really, I just wanted to meet girls. I wanted to date. When I finally got a girlfriend when I was 20, and then we broke up after about 6 months. After that, it was like I was gone to the races. It was like, right, I never want to experience a dry spell again. So I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that the tap never goes off again. And the tap didn't go off for about 20 years, and in that 20 years, I drove myself pretty much to the edge of insanity, doing game and meeting lots of different girls. So there's got to be motivation there. Do you know what I mean? There's got to be. So the first thing that you've got to say to yourself is like, how badly do I want this? It's like with anything. It's like you want to write a Hollywood screenplay. Well, how badly do you want it, right? How far are you prepared to go for this thing? As it was for me, and this wasn't a conscious decision. This was just how it was. I was prepared to do almost anything in order to get this skill set mastered, because that's just how I was wired. And that meant, suffering any number of rejections. It meant getting into embarrassing situations. It meant lots and lots of, flakes and leads going nowhere, and just all kinds of crap and funny adventures and, weird situations and things. Because the desire for the end result was so all-encompassing. So firstly, you need to ask if you've got that. And if you haven't got that, then you need to either manufacture it somehow, or you need to just accept, well look, maybe, maybe getting amazingly great at a game just isn't going to be something I'm going to do. Maybe that's just not me, right? I think you can sort of manufacture it though, and the best way to manufacture it is to start taking the action, start doing the approaches, and as soon as you start to get a little hint of success, what you'll find is that will then spur you on, and it does become, I don't want to say addictive because that's a tainted word, but it certainly becomes something that's quite compulsive after a while. And then the rewards, you start to get the dopamine hits from the positive things that happen, and then it becomes easier to stay in it and to keep spinning the roulette wheel. But yeah, in the end, you need to. And the other thing I should say is as well, it's also the mindset shift as well, and here's another plug, is what I teach in a dating academy, because it is just doing the approaches and analyzing the interactions. But what really changed things for me was even more fundamental than that. It was the fact that my mindset shifted exponentially over the period of about a month or 2 months when I was in Manchester. And that came about because I was drinking a lot, I was partying a lot, and I became, as I said on Myron Gaines's show before, a cocky mofo, basically. And when I became a cocky mofo, guess what? The girls started to respond better to me. Now, it's an uncomfortable truth about the way that human relations play out, but the truth of the matter is, if you're a bit arrogant and you're a bit up yourself and you're kind of narcissistic, you tend to draw people to you. You particularly draw sexual attention to you from the women around you. But you've got to create that shift within yourself in order to bring that mindset on board. So I don't recommend doing it like I did it, but Charisma and Dating Academy is the link below. And by the way, you get a 25% discount because you're watching this stream. So do click through that now. And it closes tomorrow, guys. It closes tomorrow at midnight. So that's really what the course teaches. It's how to get that mindset shift so that you become that guy who's got that IDGAF attitude, who's just like, yeah, whatever. Who's got that narcissism, that Machiavellianism, that psychopathy, who just is like, that renegade player kind of dude. And once you do that, the girls that you're interacting with start to behave more more favorably towards you anyway. And then that makes the whole job a lot easier, if that makes sense. Rory says, whatever you do, don't fly with Ryanair. They're robbing bastards. I can't comment on that really. I've flown with them recently a couple of times, and they were. I flew with them actually back from Berlin a few weeks. Well, it's a month ago now or something. It was the first flight I'd taken back into the UK after COVID, and it was all fine, I have to say. It's easy to identify yourself as somebody women don't like, especially if you're not pre-selected. The cold approach will change your unconscious mind over time. That is true. And it's easy to get stuck with this mental idea that, not mental as in insane, this mental model that I am undesirable, I am unlovable, whatever it is. And to break out of that, you have to go and start talking to people. You have to start going and talking to girls. And yes, you might get some brutal blowouts, but as you proceed, the likelihood is you will also get some glimmers of hope. And those glimmers of hope are what you hang on to, even if you don't get, the full result that you want that the first time or the second time or whatever. You start to see the glimmers of hope. You see the smiles. You see the laughter at your jokes. You see the slightly lingering look in the eye. She tells you she has a boyfriend, but she kind of looks at you a little bit longer than you think she should, and you think, well, actually, I think she was kind of interested, And those little things will spur you on. So yes, you need to just get out there and start doing the approaching. That's an interesting one. Rory says, I remember telling my ex who broke up with me last year about me turning 2 years a day game before I met her, and she couldn't understand it. I think when she met me, she thought I was a natural. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, women want the finished article. They, as I think Rich Cooper said, they stand at the finish line and they kind of pick the winners. And girls, generally speaking, don't have to worry about this stuff. Girls aren't sitting there really concerning themselves with this stuff, because for them, of course, it's a buyer's market, or it's a seller's market, maybe. I don't know which way around you want to say, but for them, it's when they are attractive and when they are within that fertile period, then for the most part, for them, it's fairly straightforward. Their job is not thinking, oh God, I've got to do all this stuff to get proficient in the game. What's probably more of a concern for them is, how do I weed out the guys who are no good? How do I weed out the beaters and then the jerks who are really going to mess me around? And how do I just get the guys that I actually want to, like for them, the problem is one of filtering. Whereas for guys, the problem is one of performance, really. I mean, the guy has to make things happen. The guy has to learn the skill set. The guy has a very steep learning curve, because, as has also been said, women get thrown into social situations from very young with some regularity, because girls get hit on a lot, right? Guys, unless they are very lucky and maybe they're genetically blessed, or they're the captain of the football team, or both, don't necessarily get the training they need. And so when they start to interact with women, like with me, the story that I told about when I was 17, they're not very good at it, and it takes practice and it takes work, So it's not surprising. And to be honest, I mean, I think she probably, it's not something I would discuss with girls very much. Any sense that you had to put in effort in order to become proficient, I think, is a little bit of a turnoff for her, because she just wants you to be that guy. She doesn't want to know about the work that you put in order to get there. Which is why I don't really tend to talk about it in much detail to girls that I see, because I just think it's counterproductive, really. So, Svetan, how do you pronounce it? Is it Svetan Stoichev? Is that a Russian name? Says, fun fact, since 2 years, I started noticing at least 1 week guys doing pickup in the sense of Munich. Out of curiosity, I sometimes chat with them. Well, yeah, I mean, Munich is a very big center for daytime approach. And yes, there are often guys out and about there doing their thing. It's quite interesting, right? Because when I'm in London, of course, when you've done this stuff yourself, and when you've watched videos and everything, you can sort of see it. So I'll be walking down the street, and then sometimes I'll just see a guy and a girl talking, and I'll be like, that's the day game approach, because you can just kind of tell. You can kind of tell, and normally I'm right. Sometimes I'm wrong, but normally I'm right, because you can see the stance, the way he's talking to her, the way she's reacting to him. You kind of get the vibe that they didn't know each other before, and you can see it. It's really key. So yeah, once you get experience, you'll be able to notice it a lot more. You can see them in all over the place, really. Bulgaria. Cool, man. I wanted to. Do you know what the vibe is like in? I mean, you're probably should be for saying this, but somewhere like Sunny Beach. Like right now, do you know if what the COVID situation is like there. I've been told that the coast in Bulgaria is pretty busy at the moment because, there's a lot of people there. There aren't that many COVID restrictions. Do you know if that's true or not? Because I have been thinking of going there, but I'm not sure. The thing that keeps putting me off traveling anywhere this summer really is that I'm trying to look at places that look a bit fun. And as we've just seen with Mykonos, they're now talking about closing the bars at night. Ibiza is, a bit of a washout. But what about Bulgaria? What's happening on the coast there? Somewhere like, Sunny Beach, or even like, what's the city called? Varda, or the city. I think it begins with a V. Is there much action at these places? Or are they closing down again? If you've got any insight, let us know in the chat. Bulgarian girls are pretty cute, by the way. I've got some questions. I just wanted to go back a little bit and see if because there were some questions before. What's your opinion on... Okay, right. So SD Kapoor says, what's your opinion on speed dating to remove shyness and social awkwardness from the system? Yeah, I don't know really. I mean, I suppose it's one way. The problem with that is, though, it's the setup itself, I think, creates nervousness. I think the setup is almost, I suppose... I mean, on the one hand, I suppose that you're going to get your shot in terms of talking to each girl, because that's sort of the rules, like they say, right, sit down, you've got 5 minutes or whatever it is, start talking. You're going to get your shot to talk to her. She's not going to immediately just shoot you down, because that's sort of against the rules of the speed dating setup. But at the same time, I think if I was incredibly shy and socially awkward, I would find the speed dating setup quite intimidating as well, because it's a bit like, oh God, And I don't think it's necessarily really gonna make it a lot easier, because if you were incredibly shy and you're sat in front of somebody at a speed dating event, you could just clam up there. You just be like, do you like stuff? Kind of thing. So I think it's a bit like learning to swim. I mean, in the end, you just have to dive into the bloody pool. I mean, there isn't really, as much as you can watch videos with swimming techniques and you can read books about it and things like this, in the end, you need to throw yourself into it. I mean, for myself, what I used to do, and what I still do to some extent, is deliberately throw myself into socially awkward situations that would challenge me in order to strengthen myself. So that is to say, talking to groups, in the club, to extremely attractive girls, not just girls, that seemed realistic, but extremely attractive girls, walking into mixed sets where there's guys and girls, all of these different things, in order to, and even if you fail doing those things, that doesn't matter, because it's not the point that you succeed in, that particular interaction. The point is that you desensitize yourself, as somebody else has said in the chat, by chucking yourself into these very difficult situations. Somebody's asking about, is it true if you don't use it, you lose it? It might be true. I think if he's talking about confidence and social aplomb, it possibly is true. But because of my addictive nature, I have really never let it go since about the age of 20. Like, I've always kept throwing myself out there, because I've always been worried about sort of regressing back into my teenage self. Now, I think it's very unlikely that happen, because I think for myself, I have thought about this actually. I've thought, God, is there a chance that I could revert back to how I was at 18? And I don't think there is, because I think so many things have happened to me over the years that it would be almost, I think my brain's been rewired. I think it'd be very difficult to go back to that same nervous guy that I was back then. But yeah, sure. I mean, if you lock yourself away for 3 months and you don't talk to anybody, then it's going to be harder for you coming out on the other side. But I also think that, I believe that neural pathways can be altered. And once you alter those, then there is a lasting change in the brain. And I'm not talking as a brain surgeon here, so please consult your own neurologist on this. But I think that you do change over time. But yeah, sure, you also need to keep the practice up for sure. Do you think, so Rafik says, do you think that most people that go to boot camps and get into this dating world are shy, quote unquote, loser guys? Well, I wouldn't say they're loser guys. I think that would be very pejorative to say that. I mean, they might be shy. But then lots of different people go to boot camps and they go for one-on-one training and stuff from all different sorts of life. I mean, I've worked with guys, very successful, very confident guys, wealthy guys, very alpha guys in many ways who they can't quite apply that in the dating world. So I don't think it's the case at all that they're all losers. And actually, I mean, I wouldn't label anybody a loser. I mean, what is a loser anyway, right? I mean, people are at different levels in their lives, and somebody could be at a very low ebb, but they can pull themselves out of that, or at least they can improve their batting average, right? And that's, if you're somebody who's creating content about this, then your job is to help those people. So no, I don't think they're losers. They may well be shy though, yeah. But even then, not necessarily that. Right, let's go back up to the comments a bit. Picture my booty up in 3D. I think we're all picturing that. Right, Rafik again. Do you think in the next decade there could be a rise of women who praise being feminine and go out and pick up guys? Well, like if a girl asked me for my number, I would give it to her. But that wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, I probably would. That wouldn't be feminine though, would it? Because the feminine behaviour is to be. It's more feminine, really, to wait for the guy. You know, the guy should be making the move. So I'm not sure. I don't think that would necessarily be feminine. I think in a way that would be more masculine. And in a funny sort of a way, despite feminism, we still haven't seen, you know, an onslaught of women going and asking guys out, which you would have thought would have happened. Because surely the idea of feminism is that women are equal and they are, they're in charge of their own destiny and everything. So in a sense, it's surprising that we haven't seen more women making the first move with guys, but we just don't. And women still expect guys to make the first move. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I don't think it would be particularly feminine in the archetypal sense if they did. Right, Copenhagen is a good place to do day game. Well, the short answer is I don't really know because I haven't done it there, but I have been to Copenhagen. But I was there with a girl I was seeing, so it wasn't really a sort of a day game thing. But I would imagine it is. I mean, there's certainly a lot of attractive girls there. Danish girls are very cute, of course. It's very walkable. You've got that interesting legal weed hippie area. It's Christian something, which is pretty cool. So I would think so, yeah. Keep an open mind. Certainly when we were there, it was pretty busy. There was lots of people around. So yeah, I would think so for sure. Silver will shake booty in their own movie. And then Rory says, speed dating is like real life Tinder with added social pressure. Yeah, I mean, I can see the thinking. I can see why you would think maybe that's a little bit less stressful because you're not going to get immediately rejected, but it's still quite stressful, and it's something weirdly artificial about the whole thing. That I mean, I don't like speed dating anywhere. I wouldn't really recommend it to any guy because you're setting yourself up as the chosen. You're going around and you're almost putting yourself up like a piece of meat be vetted by these girls, and then at the end they say, no, I don't like him, I'll have the chat. And that is not a good position to put yourself in. You want to be the chooser, not the chosen. And I think with speed dating, I mean, yes, you get a chance to, talk to her and maybe impress her a bit, but in the end, she's the chooser. You're putting yourself there to be appraised like something at an auction, and that's not a good frame, I don't think, to be in. Yeah, so Svetlin says, I'll do research about the Bulgarian coast. Yeah, that'd be awesome, man, if you let me know. Troy at realtroyfrancis.com if you fancy, if you get a second to drop an email. But what about Mallorca? Do you mean what about to go there in general? Well, Ibiza's always been my favorite, to be honest. Like, I've always loved Ibiza. I've been there many times. Ibiza has its own problems in terms of dating. It's in some ways, in spite of the fact that it is absolutely full of half-naked, beautiful women for 6 months of the year, or May to 6 months of the year, nearly May to October. It's not always the easiest place to. It has logistical problems for dating, but Ibiza's always my favourite. I have been to Mallorca, but not for some time. I mean, I think that I think any of these places can be good. I mean, like, you're going to holiday places where girls are there, not wearing very much, and probably up for a bit of a holiday adventure. So yeah, for sure. I mean, there's going to be action there, absolutely. But Mallorca is not really my speciality. As I say, the one I wanted to go to was the Greek island Mykonos this year, but it looks like that could be. Off the cards now. Rory, Copenhagen is one of the top places in the whole world to do day game. You are very lucky. I'm an American and can't live in Europe because I need an EU passport. Well, after December the 31st, the British can't live in Europe, in the EU either, because of Brexit, which is a bit of a bummer. But I don't know, man. I mean, like, we can still travel around there pretty easily. I think I will get residency in one of the EU countries pretty easily. But actually, well, I'm going off on a tangent now. I'm pretty happy in the UK personally. I think what's great about the UK is we've got the ability to travel over there and then sort of come back. So, because we are still on the same continent. So, but yeah, anyway, Copenhagen is a great place to go. I haven't tried day game there, but Rafik thinks it's good. So yeah, sounding cool. Michael says, flirted with the foundations of the dark tetrad today. Happy to say the aggressive sadist talking pulled me an 8 coming over tomorrow for a fun time. You're a great author, Troy. Thank you. So that is amazing news. You should let us know how it goes. Let us know how it goes. That's really interesting. But I'm glad that it helped. It just shows you heard it here. This stuff worked. Join CAD Academy for the real lowdown on the dark tetrad stuff. Rory says, using drugs, especially stimulants and alcohol, is a short-term mating strategy. For men, you mean? It's a short-term mating strategy. It probably is. I mean, I did an article a while back where I said cocaine is the ultimate seducer's drug, and I'm not saying anybody should go and do cocaine. It's very naughty and it's illegal. But, what are the effects of that drug on the user? Well, they become very arrogant. They become very talkative. They become probably quite lacking in empathy and narcissistic, So it's sort of, it kind of mimics all of the dark triad stuff just because you've imbibed a bit of powder. So I think that drugs and alcohol are certainly an aid to short-term mating for guys. Now, for myself, I don't do that stuff, and I haven't done that stuff for a very, very long time, about 18 years. So I've had to learn how to do this stuff without those stimulants, and it is possible. It's not easy, but it is possible. The truth is that most people rely to some extent on alcohol for dating, if not other substances. And, I mean, if that works for them, then great. But you don't need to go down that route, which is not healthy and potentially damaging in other ways. So yeah, but it's an interesting point. Alpha Sloth, speed dating is better than nothing. It's an artificial construct. It's an artificial construct, much more than a straight approach. That's true. You see, when you're doing a straight approach, there's something very authentic about it. You're like, hey, I saw you and I had to come over and speak to you because you're really cute. My name's Troy. That's really spontaneous. Well, it seems spontaneous and it's really authentic. Whereas speed dating is a bit like, oh, it's just this horribly constructed thing. And yeah, I'm not a fan. Somebody's asking about... Right, Michael says, no sex for 8 months. I'm sorry to hear that. What's the best way forward? Apps, cold approach, or IOIs? All of them, really. I would be maxing out all of them. I would get on the apps. I would get on all of as many apps as you can. I mean, obviously the main ones are Tinder, Bumble, Hinge. There's something called Pure that people are using a little bit in the UK. There's also Seeking Arrangements, which I don't know. I'm on Life Dating, Myron Gaines. Have done content on it. I would get on all the apps. I would get the best pictures I can. Use FaceApp. You can use Photo Feeler to get people to vote on your pictures, or you can get an impartial view of how hot you look in the pictures. Choose the best pictures. Work them on the apps. Start swiping. I would definitely do that. I would also be doing cold approach during the daytime. If you go out and about at night, do it there as well. And yes, I would also, in the meantime, be looking out for IOIs. This is what I say. You need to be doing all of them. You need to be maxing out on all of these things. They're just lead sources. As John MLD says, sex is sales. You need to be out there sourcing the whole time and then closing. But sourcing, bringing potential girls into your orbit, it doesn't really matter whether you meet her on an app, whether you meet her in Starbucks, or whether you meet her at the local nightclub, right? As long as you meet her, then she's in your, she's a potential. She's in your pipeline. And then you seek to get her out on a date and convert her, that is to say, move things on to the next stage. So I would be using as many, if you've gone through a dry patch, you need to be just throwing everything at it. You need to be using as many different methods as you can to meet new people. That's just how it is, you need to maximize. So he says, Svetan says, situation in Bulgaria, 70% lower tourists. However, should be plenty of Bulgarian girls around. Well, that's good news. Because Bulgarian girls are cute, as are most girls from the Balkans in general. Right, what else have we got? Rafik girls are attracted to decisive guys, and that's why they wait for guys to ask. Girls will approach guys if they are aloof, but while you're waiting, another guy might scoop her up. Well, yes, and I mean, look, we don't want to raise false hopes here, because yes, sometimes, occasionally, girls might approach, but it's a minority of times, I think. I mean, I suppose you could say, I don't know, if you have this imaginary, what do the incels call it? A giga chat, this guy who is just so attractive. Maybe all the girls approach him. But I think, I mean, look at that rant, the Tommy Lehan or whatever she's called, rant about men the other day. She said it will be a cold day in hell before I chase a man. And there are plenty of girls with that mindset. They are just not going to approach you. They're just not going to do it. It's like, I mean, I don't think girls particularly like the possibility of rejection. So there's that. But also, it's just like, it's an ego thing. She's just not going to do it. So, wait, and I know this isn't what Rafik was saying, but waiting around for girls to approach you is never a good strategy, because the likelihood is you're going to be waiting all your life and you're just going to be a skeleton there in the corner crumbling to dust. We have to go out there and make things happen. The onus has to be on us to approach and to create opportunities for ourselves and for the girls, remember, because this should be win-win. This isn't about, you being selfish, you're also creating an opportunity for her to meet a cool guy, to have a fun time. So, but we need to be out there doing that. Otherwise, most of the time it's not going to happen. And this is why the whole thing about waiting on IOIs, I mean, yes, if you see an indicator of interest, if she smiles at you, if she looks a little bit too long, there's a lingering glance or something, sure, go and have a chat. Why not? But you shouldn't be just relying on that, because, you aren't opening yourself up to the range of opportunities that you would otherwise. Like a lot of this is like, it's like entrepreneurialism, really. You have to be out there creating opportunities for yourself. Rafik again, do you think girls are just as horny as guys? Can you explain it? It seems like guys are hornier than girls. Well, I think girls are pretty horny, to be honest. If you've ever read My Secret Garden by Nancy Friday, there's some filthy stuff in that book, the book about women's fantasies. Just outrageously filthy stuff that these girls are thinking about. I think girls are pretty horny, to be honest. They perhaps... We'll put it this way as well. What is a better belief system for you to have? Is it a better belief system for you to have that girls are so horny and they're just there and they're thinking about it all the time, or is it a better belief system for you to have that they're not interested and they're actually quite shy and they don't really like to engage in those kinds of behaviors? It's a better belief system for you to have the former, because that's going to make you more alert to opportunities around you, and it's going to make you more eager to create opportunities for yourself. So regardless of what the objective truth of the matter is, it's better to believe that they are. But from what I've seen, I think they are. And, I mean, I don't know if anyone else has got any comments on this in the chat, but, we just have to look at stories of infidelities and things that go on and things that women do to demonstrate that, yes, I mean, they are very horny, they're for it, and they want to have a good time. But so you have to be the right guy. Any advice on doing bars solo? Don't have friends who want to go, never got into it properly, so I'm a bit clueless. And he says he's in London. I mean, obviously, it's not a great time at the moment, as you know, because of COVID, unless you go somewhere like Soho, where there are loads of people out in the streets at the moment. When it's sunny, there are lots of people out because it's pedestrianised in the street, and there are people around, guys and girls and stuff like that. I mean, it's probably a bit of a big topic, and I'm going to have to... an hour and 12 minutes. Wow, I've been on for a while. I'm going to have to cut the stream at some point because I've got to go to bed because I'm really tired. But it's a bit of a longer topic. I mean... the best thing is just to own it and be natural. You walk into the bar, get a drink, have a look around, and just look for what look like reasonably easy targets. You might see a girl who's on her own or she's walking off somewhere. Or just stand by the bar, and then when this is what Reece used to do. He'd stand by the bar. And then when the girls came to the bar in order to get served, he would initiate conversations with them. That's a very easy way to do it, because everybody's got to go to the bar. Well, most people go to the bar at some point during the night. So you've got to get some opportunities that way. The other thing to do is to go to an area, maybe Soho, maybe Shoreditch. I don't know whereabouts you're based, but go to an area that's there's quite a few different bars, Clapham, potentially. And then you can do a little bit of bar hopping. You can go around. And also a good thing to do as well is if you go to a bar, and again, this is kind of like not very good during COVID, but you go to a bar where there's a dance floor and where people are, it's not a club, but it's got that dancey kind of vibe to it. People are usually milling around a little bit more. It's easier to just walk up and start conversations with people. It's definitely doable. Don't get fazed by like, oh my God, is she going to worry if I'm on my own? Just start conversations with people. If she says, oh, where are your friends? Just sort of say, oh, they're over there somewhere. Like, or he went over to talk to someone. He's over there somewhere, I think. Or just like, or you could say, oh, yeah, I had to go home because he's been called into an early shift tomorrow morning, but I thought I'd stay out because I'm just, I'm just kind of a social guy. Just make excuses, don't make if you see it as being weird and strange behavior, then that's going to reflect back. If you just own it, you're just completely normal, it's fine. But it's definitely doable. Oh, right. Andrew says, what's your preferred first date venue? I think just generally like a lounge bar type place, I think is pretty cool. Like somewhere where there's seats, quite comfortable, nice ambience, maybe some kind of low lighting, something like that. The most important thing generally is being able to sort of sit next to her. You don't really want to be sitting opposite her. That's a bit of a buzzkill. It becomes a bit of an interview type situation. Ideally, you want someone with a couch. You can sit next to her so you can, start to get close to her, start to escalate a little bit. But yeah, I think a lounge bar is cool, or a coffee shop. But yeah, keep it simple. I mean, you don't have to overthink it. It doesn't have to be, I wouldn't go down the route of like weird adventure dates and going rock climbing with her or anything like that. Keep it simple. Keep it like basic. Rory, did you ever lose your temper in the early days with a woman who gave you brutal and rude blowout? I remember I did once, but it actually felt worse after I completely lost the frame. No, not really, because I just chalk it up to the game. I think it's part of it. I mean, look, you're the one who approached her. Like you take a risk, and I mean, the thing with game is, right, I think you need to have a high ego, but you've also got to keep your ego in check. And I mean, I would always go around and think, well, like, she's got a right to think what she wants to think about me. I mean, not every girl is going to think I'm, the God's gift, and that's just kind of how it is. And maybe there's something in maybe there's something that I need to improve. Maybe I can learn something from this. So no, I haven't generally ever got very angry, because I mean, it's a fine balance. I mean, I say to guys, you need to be entitled, you need to go around like acting narcissistic and everything else, but at the same time, you've got to be realistic, and you've got to think, like I'll go around acting in a narcissistic manner, but I'm also not deluded enough internally to think that I actually, that I'm necessarily really worthy of that. Like, of course there are guys who are genuine chads out there who blow me out the water. So, as much as I can walk up to the girl, cocky as hell, and be like, yeah, sort of thing. If she blows me out, it's like, well, yeah, okay, fine. She probably could do better. So no, I mean, try not to take it too seriously. I mean, anger is not, it doesn't. It's just bad. It just doesn't look good. I mean, sometimes I've got angry a couple of times with cock blocks, with girls who come in and try to ruin things just for the, or those really annoying girls who just mess things up because they're just jealous or because they're whatever. I mean, and that's happened to me, and that's happened to me with girls who have complained to me about their friends. They've said to me afterwards, "Oh, my friend was so annoying. She just came in and tried to mess it all up, and I was getting on really well with you." I don't know what it is with these girls' friends, but that I find a bit annoying. But even then, you've got to just you just got to accept it. You've got to be like water, just let it flow. All you need is some TLC and some vitamin P. What I'm trying to say is I find him sexually attractive. Thank you. I don't know if he's talking to me or if that person's talking to me. So, right. Eddie says, girls will eventually approach guys and chat them up if there's enough time. It's just an IOI. I know from experience, regardless, it's the guy who has to close the deal and ask for a date. Well, yes. I mean, guys do really have to do the running for the most part. And then Rafik once more says, I have trouble with conversations once every girl in day game and I run out of things to say. Any advice? Well, you have to get good at improvisation, basically. You have to get good at just running your mouth. One way to do it is to practice an improvisation technique. So choose a random word, go to a random word website like Random Word Generator. It will come up with a word, set your timer for 1 minute and just talk into your video camera or talk into your audio recording device about that word. Make up stories about it, make up anecdotes about it. Guys have to learn how to carry the conversation to some extent, because she's not necessarily going to make it easy for you, particularly in the first few minutes of the approach. And also as well, you approach her, right? So it's only right that you kind of carry the can. And what tends to happen is that if you just keep talking, and what you say doesn't have to be particularly brilliant, it doesn't always even have to make that much sense, but if you keep talking, then what you will often find is that she relaxes into it, and she suddenly, her eyes light up, and she's like, and then it's on, and then she asks you a question, and then you're into it. But you need to learn to bridge that gap. So the best thing to do is to improvise. You can talk about things I've talked about before. You make some assumptions about her nationality, where she's from, what she does for a job, and then what those things remind you of when you've experienced something like that yourself. So yeah, it's improvisation. You can do improvisation classes, but you can also do the exercise at home that I just outlined. And then I think this may have to be pretty much the last one. C. Joel says, how do you play your cards when approaching a girl who is with a group that already has an overwhelming amount of extrovert energy? How do you avoid getting into an extrovert pissing contest? Well, I mean, the first thing to say is, do you really have to approach that girl? Because you don't have to, like you have to have abundance. You don't always have to choose the hardest sets. You don't have to, it's like, oh, if a girl's surrounded by 15 guys and they're all like, and they're all male models and they're all jacked and, she's making out with one of them, how do you approach? It's like, well, I probably wouldn't bother, to be honest. I just go and talk to the waitress instead. Do you know what I mean? So there is that. You have to weigh it up in each situation and think, well, is this really worth it? Having said that, I think that you need to try to match the energy of the group. So you need to kind of try to summon up a similar level of energy, and you walk in like, hey, you guys look like you're having a good time. What's up? Start speaking to some of the other people, start speaking to some of the guys, like, hey, how's it going? Great party, blah, blah, blah. And then before turning your attention to her, maybe talk to one of the other girls, do the old mystery method thing, create a little bit of a jealousy plot line there. So yes, I would try to go in at the same level of energy, but at the same time, in the end, if you're doing daytime approach, if you're doing app game, and if you're doing some nighttime stuff, then you don't have to, like Myron Gaines says, you walk into a bar and there's a load of guys in there and not many girls, and the girls are kind of being a bit entitled and so on, then just leave and go to another bar. You don't have to make it difficult on yourself. I mean, of course, if she's really nice, if she's really pretty and you really want to try to, to make something happen with her, then, then either do what I just suggested or wait till she breaks off from the group. Maybe she'll go to the bar, maybe she'll go outside for a cigarette or something like that. Find an opportune moment to chat to her when she's on her own or when the situation's less high pressure. Slow your roll, you'll never out-extrovert a chick. Well, you might do, because some chicks are introverts. Why would you want to? This idea of super high energy alpha is difficult to pull off. Yeah, I mean, that is also true. You don't have to be super high energy. But by the same token, if you walk into a group that is all, off their heads on Molly and they're super high energy and you are coming in like the low energy guy, that might not play very well. Well, maybe that wasn't the right group for you to approach. Maybe that isn't the right scene for you to be doing your game. Maybe you should be concentrating more on day game. So you've got to pick your battles for sure. But at the same time, yes, I mean, I'm not encouraging everybody. I'm not like, you should, if you're a bookish guy sitting at home reading Shakespeare like I am now, I'm reading through all the Shakespeare plays that I haven't read before. then you don't have to become the crazy party guy. You know, maybe you are just the quieter, you know, more cerebral kind of guy. Maybe your game is better done in bookshops than it is in banging nightclubs. You know, like everybody has to find their own level, if you like, and it doesn't really matter where it is, as long as you're getting the results that you want. What percentage of numbers from day game convert into dates from your experience? It depends where you are in the world. It depends your level of skill. It depends on. There's a lot of factors involved with that, but it's pretty low. I mean, you know, if you do 10 approaches, you might get, say you get 5 numbers. So you get not even 5. So you get 4 numbers. Of those, you might get 1 or 2 dates, something like that. So it's not very high, but at the same time, if your date game is strong, then the conversion rate of those dates can be good. So, you know, I think day game is, there's a lot of attrition in day game, for sure. There's some people on Twitter arguing about this at the moment. There's a guy who's trolling all the day game guys, saying, or calling them the 3%ers, saying all you guys get is a 3% success rate. That's rubbish. And yeah, you know, I mean, when you get good, it can get higher than that. But yeah, I mean, you know, there is. I don't believe that day game is the most efficient mode of game, but for some guys, it suits them very well, and I think it's a great thing to have in your armor. And one of the reasons for that is because sometimes you will get IOIs, you will get indicators of interest. So you will be at the dry cleaners, and a pretty girl will smile at you and look at you for a little bit longer than she should. Now, if you've been doing a load of day game, then you're going to be able to go in there and handle that situation very effectively. If you don't, then you're going to find it very nerve-wracking, and you're probably not going to speak to her, or you're going to mess it up. And so day game is always worth doing, but you have to bear in mind that, you know, the results aren't always stellar in percentage terms, but it's also a lot of fun as well. So, you know, there's that to it. Andrew says, do you cringe reading tweets from the morality police who refer to their families as their tribes? Yes, absolutely. Try and call those guys out as much as possible. So then some guys talking about a conversation in the game. Rory talking about abundance. It's important to date from abundance as a man because you learn stuff in your 20s. Women twice at me in their early 20s start wanting an LTR. That's true. The power moves over to the guys you get into your, and even into your 40s. So yeah, I mean, you know, to some extent, if you're in your 20s, it is going to be a bit tougher, but wait it out because things certainly get better as you get older. All right, guys, listen, I'm probably going to have to leave it now, although there's more of you online now, so thank you very much for tuning in, but it is really late, and this is the 3rd stream I've done today, and I'm pretty knackered, to be honest, and my voice is going a bit. But it's been a really good stream, and thanks for all the questions. It's been really awesome. So Charisma and Dating Academy is out now. As I said, it's my transformational course that will take you from Cho to Chad. Goes through all of the stuff we're talking about, the mindset stuff, the bad boy stuff, how to differentiate yourself from the normies, plus everything that you need to know from game A to Z. 10 hours worth of video on that course. Plus, you get 2 weeks. Sorry, I'm overselling now. You get a week's worth of live webinars. That is 10 live Zoom webinars with me. Plus, I'll be bringing in Myron Gaines. Hopefully, John MLD will come in. Ryan Stone came in last time. I'll get some of the other Rule Zero guys in, hopefully. So it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a game masterclass. It's going to be an immersion game over a week in August. I'll be giving you the dates very soon for those webinars. And you get a 25% discount on the course as you're part of this stream. So I will put in the link once more. It is in the chat there. It's also in the description for this video, and I will pin it as the first comment underneath as well. So, yeah, if you want to join CAD Academy, we close tomorrow. So after tomorrow at midnight, you won't be able to join, and then the price will go up next time. But if you do this link now, you get a 25% discount on the cost of the course. So this will be the lowest price you will ever get it at. So do go through and have a look at that. There's more information on the sales page there. Aside from that, please do subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out to build. It really helps me out with building up the audience. And I will be back again tomorrow. We'll be doing another one of these tomorrow at the same time. So please do come back. Please do bring all of your questions and topics and comments and so on with you. It'll be really good to have another session like this where we really get into the issues. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you then. Remember CAD Academy, sign up on the link below in the description, and I will see you guys again tomorrow night. Bye-bye.